So Bill is a highly experienced transport planner and project director, having held senior management and commercial responsibility within global transport planning consultancies since 2005. As a transport policy and a strategy advisor with 35 years experience in national, regional, and local transport policy frameworks, institutional process, and structure, Bill brings wide-ranging experience of leading complex projects and business groups in the delivery of advisory and technical assignments. Today, Bill will talk about Clyde Metro program through the lens of smart transport innovation and urban sustainability. Uh, we really very much thankful to Bill for agreeing to give this talk. And now, floor is yours, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Morning, everyone. So as Swale said, I'm a director at Arup and I lead our cities and planning business in our North geography. In Arup speak, that is everything north from the Midlands. So I have oversight of our planning, land use planning, transport planning, and economic activities across that whole area. I've got 35 years experience, which when I say it out loud seems very long time. And I've worked across the UK. I've been based in the Middle East, and I've worked in India and in the US across that times. Recently, I led the team that brought Scottish Rail Services back into public ownership, and that's something I'm really proud of. And currently, I'm a part of our wider team supporting SPT on Clyde Metro, hence the lens that we've touched on. So we're going to be talking about smart transportation through the lens of Clyde Metro and in the context of innovation and urban sustainability. I want to focus across 9 broad areas, so I'll canter through these slides, cutting across strategic planning, integrated mobility, and considering how Arup leverages wider and international experience to inform and shape the development of transformative schemes. So you need to move. There we go. So here's what we'll cover. What do we mean by smart transportation? We'll touch on some common pitfalls and failures in smart transport projects, and then look at some key lessons drawn from a range of project examples. We'll then bring things back to Clyde Metro and think about the vision and key lessons for the Clyde Metro programme. So, smart transportation. What do we mean? Is it Hyperloop? The image top right, using low pressure tubes and maglev technology to move people and goods at high speed. That's one thought. Connected and autonomous vehicles, where we're using technology to remove the human factor, another aspect. Or mobility as a service, where we're creating integrated platforms to make transport and mobility more straightforward and more accessible. In reality, I think smart transportation is a blend of technology, of mobility, connectivity, data, information, and most importantly, people. Transport is about integrating these elements to create seamless, efficient, and sustainable journeys. And we can see examples of that across the world. Things like in San Francisco at the moment, where Waymo have calves, where we've got various examples of platforms and MaaS that are being really effective at promoting public transport and movement, sustainable movement. But there is also fails out there. Smart transportation isn't without its challenges. Transport is complex, and it's complex in its own right. But when we layer over land use and human factors, that complexity increases exponentially. And these all need to be considered when we're thinking about smart transportation. Potential problems include citizen engagement and adoption. The top image there is a pile of hire bikes in China, where the local population didn't see the need for this solution, and in some cases actively worked against it, despite the developers' best intentions. Technical complexities and funding can also impact implementation. Smart motorways here in the UK is a clear example, and one where these difficulties have been compounded by negative headlines and the inability of national highways to effectively and safely implement a solution. And there are other examples where lack of infrastructure or unclear governance have delayed rollout or adoption or have worked against delivery. I think failures often stem from a disconnect between technological solutions and local needs, overlooking user convenience, accessibility, or causing unintended consequences like increased congestion or pollution. Sometimes the infrastructure, operators, or society simply aren't ready for the technology. But perspectives are changing, and we must always remain conscious of aspects like stakeholder views and unintended consequences. I thought I'd start with definitions, and I know I've gone beyond start a bit, but the EU's definition of smart transport involves applying information and communication technologies to transport to create more sustainable, safe, and efficient systems for both people and goods. The key components of this generally include technology, integration and seamless and multimodal journeys, connected and autonomous vehicle systems, cooperative ITS, and supporting MaaS. So it's a package. Arup, we tend to build or extend that definition and apply a framework for change that places technology within a matrix of considerations. So just running down there, to avoid trips, incentivising behaviour change, taking a more integrated perspective on land use and the role of digital connectivity to reduce travel needs. Then we think about shifting journeys to more sustainable modes like walking, cycling and public transport. And then we think about improvement and consider using technology to enhance network and or vehicle efficiency, reduce emissions. So focus areas around that would be things like living neighbourhoods, freight and logistics and operations, micromobility and public and shared transport. And pricing, I would say pricing is part of that as well. So coming through to lessons, and let's look at that and how we can relate them back to Clyde Metro. So drawing from global best practice and bringing these lessons to local context. So I'm going to cover, as I said, those 9 themes, and I've selected an example project related to each. Now, I could have chosen many examples, but I've selected specific ones to demonstrate a point in each case. What I would also say is, before we get into this, it's very rare that each of these themes are considered in isolation, but hopefully I'll get enough, I'll provide enough to get everyone thinking. So, vision. Clear vision is critical to delivery of smart transportation. I take my inspiration from Copenhagen Metro, which I was actually lucky enough to use last week. The vision was first set out about 20 years ago, before any of the scheme was developed and implemented. That vision was a compact, affordable, frequent, and beautifully designed system serving the entire city. In this case, good metro design reflects how we live and travel. It's easy to maintain, supports climate goals, and has become part of the city's identity. It's flexible enough to grow and, in fact, catalyse growth of the city. So we're now supporting on M5, which is the 5th line, and that vision remains strong and is driving progressively improved design and delivery of the project as we go. Linked to vision, and to be successful, smart transportation needs to address specific issues. And again, the need for clarity is key. It's not technology for technology's sake. High Speed 1 emerged at a time where East London was stagnating, Europe was progressing high-speed links, and London was becoming more physically and temporarily separated from Europe. By 1989, British Rail then had developed a route for High Speed 1 that would terminate at King's Cross and involved a huge amount of tunnelling underneath the centre of London. So the scheme was challenged on the significant construction costs and actually on deliverability. So at that time, Arup decided to consider alternative routes with the aim of achieving a solution that would be more financially viable. But while it was commercially led, the Arup scheme also looked to generate broader economic benefits for London and for the UK. So the route would look to create 2 further international stations, deliberately triggering regeneration opportunities in East London. So 3 key regeneration opportunities were created around 3 international stations at St Pancras, at Stratford and at Ebbsfleet. HS1, I think, can be seen as successful because of its impact in driving economic benefits and integrated regeneration, reconnecting London with other European capitals, centres of governance and finance, as well as being delivered through a low-risk project management model. So HS1 focused on connectivity, on city transformation and commercial reality, and addressed these specific issues. I thought this was a good comparison when we look at cross-party support. So one of my biggest frustrations is the length of time it takes us in the UK to deliver major infrastructure schemes. Major roads and ports can take 10 to 15 years, while strategic rail schemes can easily take 20 years to get to delivery. And while political support is only one element, anything that crosses into a different election period needs cross-party support to minimise delivery risk. I know I am simplifying a very, very complex project. However, for the purposes of today, HS2, I think, is a fundamentally sound idea, using rail to compete with flying for longer distance trips. And I would argue, in this case, that the vision for HS2 was completely lost in the noise around costs, project governance, and in process. Without the vision and clarity, the project became a political weapon and was progressively cut back to what we see that's included today, a very, very expensive straight line connecting London to the Midlands, which is just, as I say, the vision was lost. The next theme I want to touch on is infrastructure productivity, and we'll go back to Copenhagen Metro here. So infrastructure productivity means the efficiency and effectiveness of infrastructure, whether it's systems like transport, energy, or digital networks, I think, in contributing to economic growth and to output. So in Copenhagen, and specifically on Route M5 that we're working on currently, it's fair to say the system benefits from minimalist designs. Shallow tunnels, minimum bore, as you can see in the graphic there, and no frills stations. It's very Scandi design, very utilitarian, and everything has a purpose. And if this thinking is extended beyond the actual stations and the vehicles into the extensions, and is driving land reclamation and is driving growth. So infrastructure design and network development have been hand in hand in development of a system that supports city living and that helps promote a very positive narrative around the early phases, and a narrative that has been developed through each line. But the success of that first line has provided a strong foundation for more efficient delivery of the early stages of the subsequent phases. Copenhagen Metro M5 shows the value of efficient design, specification and route identification, infrastructure productivity, and is a key driver in city transformation. Okay. So moving on to systems thinking and the need for a system level perspective is key, and an integrated approach indeed is key to smart transportation. And I think it's highlighted when we focus in on mobility pricing. Mobility pricing, as you'll all know, is complicated. It requires a really compelling business case. It has to be outcome driven, and the assessment needs to reflect this. And it needs to account for agile and interoperable systems. So there's a lot in there. And they all need to reflect the aims of the specific scheme. And what I've got here are some icons from projects like Greater Manchester Clean Air Plan, or where we developed the Heathrow Airport Terminal Drop-Off Charging Scheme, or where we have been appraising scenarios to inform the next generation of road user charging in the Republic of Ireland. The core of our approach there relies on highly integrated expertise that provides cities, regions and operators with both specific deep technical knowledge and a breadth and understanding across the full life cycle of mobility pricing projects. Mobility pricing policies are notoriously challenging to deliver, particularly in complicated political public environments. And it's understanding these challenges that where we always look to bring learning from other schemes around the world to help inform local conversations and understanding of the context. Political and public pressures, the opportunities and values at the heart of delivering and developing deliverable systems. To us, this means thinking beyond the limits of a specific problem and looking beyond maybe the tight scope of a project and as what we term as total design. So thinking beyond the specific scope or project. I think traffic levels we're all expecting to continue to rise in the next decades. Transport networks and travel behaviours need to adapt to reflect this. So historically, we've managed that increase in demand by building new roads. But I think we all recognise, and society has recognised, that this is not a sustainable way forward. So we're looking to use technology and smart measures and packages to manage demand and encourage more sustainable travel choices. At Arup, we understand that sustainable transport infrastructure is only a part of the picture. Building infrastructure does not guarantee that people will use it. So we understand the importance of planning for people and identifying interventions that can go beyond technology and infrastructure. Behaviour change and demand management policies are not limited to single modes or applications and can be applied to new and existing networks, building on emerging and new technologies. The approaches require a deep understanding of the target customer in order for bespoke policies and interventions to be created that address specific problem areas. I think here, digital tools are at the core of our approach to behaviour change and demand management, enabling rapid assessment of data to inform bespoke approaches that address unique local contexts. So we have Arup developed tools like geodemographic models and approaches that process and group areas in terms of their socioeconomic and associated travel characteristics. We also use our in-house accessibility and active travel network assessment tool, Statera, which supports large-scale assessment of user experience to understand where behaviour change interventions can be most impactful. Battersea Power Station and the regeneration there highlights the role of the private sector. Connectivity and flexible planning are all important in unlocking dormant sites. So Battersea is at the heart of one of central London's largest regeneration projects and has transformed an industrial brownfield site of more than 42 acres that had lain essentially dormant for about 35 years into a vibrant and connected new city quarter with over 19 acres of public space in which to live, work and relax. So it's a former power station. It's incredibly difficult to develop and was subject to a number of false starts for leisure, for retail, for some resi. And the last master plan, catalysed by the Northern Line extension, took advantage, I think, of a different economic and commercial condition. And also technology had moved on and some of the key constraints around Thames Tideway, some viaduct and flooding issues were able to be addressed. But it meant the developer had a clearer view of risk and was buoyed by the commitment to the Northern Line extension. So it allowed them to create more developable area with more flex between commercial and resi as the development was built out. So the confidence based on smart transportation commitments and the connectivity this guaranteed allowed them to trigger the investment required to deliver the rest of the master plan. How am I doing for time, man? That's okay. So technology is key in all of this. And I think we have an increasing availability and different approaches to using data and digital technologies that's presenting us with an ever-changing set of opportunities to refine our transport systems. Increasing levels of integration and connectivity are key to unlocking and solving our current and future transport challenges. These can't be solved in isolation. So I think data and digital is imperative in driving this forward. And what I want to do was just drop in 3 examples, which I think are pretty cutting edge on how we're using data at the moment. We're progressing AI-based incident prediction for the Virginia Department of Transport in the US, using AI to create an integrated decision support system, providing functionality to review and evaluate current conditions to enable future predictions, allowing operators to make much more informed decisions to manage their networks and their asset management priorities going forward. We're working with Transport for London on a project called iBus2. This is to define the future of the intelligence system behind their world-leading bus network. So it's a business-critical system for managing and improving their service, utilising the value of requirement capture, robust business case analysis and process modelling to determine evidence-led future operating systems and patterns. And the third one, we're acting as a data science partner to National Highways Digital Lab. So here, often the issue is not gathering data or holding data, it's recognising and extracting the value from that data. So we're working in collaboration with an organisation called Kainos directly into the digital lab to deliver scalable data science tools to extract value from data for specific outcomes, including road safety, operational efficiency, and sustainable roads. These days, I think most organisations have or have access to tons of data. But it's not about data access or data collection, it's about data management and insight and getting value from the data that they hold. Finally, flexibility. So clearly, design and operation is important. But again, I think this also links to data, and that's where I wanted to focus today. Using data to inform decision making, being intentional in adjusting strategy or planning, or address shifting demand, or capitalising on new technology, rather than making opportunity-based decisions. Platforms like Fuse and Project GPT enable secure, customisable project data sharing and support collaboration and informed decision making. Project data is published on the web to save time and money and can be accessible across project partners and teams. Fuse, for example, helps build and publish secure, customisable, flexible websites for projects that integrate rich and interactive content from commonly used tools, apps, and services. These are effectively portals into curated project information, models, maps, and dashboards and documentation. And they offer a powerful way to provide an efficient, self-service user experience for all kinds of stakeholders through the project's delivery and beyond. Looking back to Copenhagen Metro on M5, we're using Fuse to hold all the project data and all the historic data to be the single source of truth, to be our key collaboration tool. And in that case, the most active user of the M5 Project Fuse site is the client project director at Metro Selskabet, our clients since 2007. So, bringing things back to Clyde Metro. Arup's involvement in the current stage, the case for investment, spans across the piece. We're working with SPT as our direct client, although the client group includes Glasgow City Council, Glasgow City Region, and all of the constituent authorities in Transport Scotland. We're leading on stages 2B, the Habitats Regulation and SEA, 2D, Programme Business Case, and 2G, Land Use and Housing Assessment. And you can see here the range of other organisations involved in different stages, all combining and contributing to create an incredibly complex landscape within which we need to progress the project. And that's without mentioning stakeholders like the UK and Scottish governments, landowners, and community groups across Glasgow. So, what is Clyde Metro? It's a fully integrated mass transit system, likely with a variety of modes. It's not a subway. It's about building an infrastructure to connect key hubs and underserved areas. It's not a standalone tram. It's a fully integrated mass transit public transport system, not a single route. It's regional in scale, extent and impact. It's not a city centre focused project. It's a multi-billion pound long-term investment programme that will span decades, not a short-term intervention. It's a transformational programme supporting regeneration and investment across the west of Scotland. It's not just a transport project. And it has to be a combination of infrastructure, services and complementary measures, not a single piece of infrastructure. The network vision has been published by Transport Scotland in the Strategic Transport Projects Review. And I'll paraphrase Valerie Davidson now, who's the Chief Exec at SPT. But what she says is that Clyde Metro will offer a fully integrated mass transit public transport system that supports the region's economic ambitions and presents an opportunity to build a better connected west of Scotland. Clyde Metro is more than just transport. It has the capacity to bring significant development to the region from an economic and social point of view. Clyde Metro offers a transformational opportunity for improving the life chances of communities across the region by tackling inequality and enhancing connectivity. It seeks to deliver affordable, reliable and well-connected public transport that improves social equity and supports inclusive growth. And to set up for success, I would argue that each of the themes I've mentioned must be addressed consciously and with intent to deliver a truly smart transportation solution. So, just to sum up, I think key lessons for Clyde Metro are: we need to develop and maintain a robust vision, ensure that the scheme is addressing clear and specific problems, and ensure, as far as possible, cross-party support. We need to maximise infrastructure productivity to support the project narrative and ensure a systems thinking approach across the whole, while also taking account of the human scale and the impact. We need to consider opportunities for private sector engagement and use technology to support design, programme, management, delivery planning and operation, and ensure that the emerging solutions are flexible and agile, providing solutions to what the city needs in the future, as well as reacting to what the city needs just now. It's only when all of these themes are addressed, I think, that we're dealing with truly smart transportation.